Brooklyn Independent Television.
December, that's when everyone decides it's time to do top 10 lists, the year's biggest stories, the year in review, etc., etc. Well, who are we to be different? We don't have the top 10 list, but we do have my good friend, Carl Hum, President and CEO of the Bklyn Chamber of Commerce. He's here to take a look back at 2009 and what it meant for Brooklyn business, and to give us his thoughts on the year ahead. Carl, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me on.
So, Carl, it's been a tough year for the economy. How has Brooklyn fared during this recession?
I think to answer that question, you had to sort of compare how we did compared to the rest of the nation. And to put that in perspective, nationwide, 8 million jobs were lost in 2009, and 16 million Americans are still out of work or underemployed, meaning that they're either employed or looking for additional work, or they're in jobs that are not paying enough. Brooklyn did a lot better with regards to the rest of the nation. Our job loss was only in 2009 is around 8,500 jobs compared to the jobs that we have here, which is a little over 450,000 jobs. So I think that when you compare those numbers, I think we did a lot better than the rest of the nation.
So, Carl, tell us, in terms of the sectors that we've experienced some growth in, are there some bright lights in the Brooklyn economy, and are they similar to the sectors that are growing in New York City as a whole?
They're similar in that healthcare, education, social services, the so-called recession-proof industries did experience job gains, and that benefits Brooklyn because, after all, around 1/4 of our jobs are in those sectors. So that's a bright spot for us. And as I mentioned before, with regards to the development of new neighborhoods throughout the borough, that begets retail, that begets new populations coming in that's going to need stores and amenities in the area. And we've seen growth in those areas. We've also seen growth in professional services. So architecture firms, management consulting firms, and professional services such as information services has also found an increase in Brooklyn as well.
So we hear a lot about the stimulus package and what it's meant for the economy. What has it meant for Brooklyn in this past year?
It's meant a great deal, and I'll put it in 3 different areas that that affected us. Just in terms of the pure dollars that came to Brooklyn in form of infrastructure payments. We experienced an influx of around $125 million just to fix transportation nodes throughout the borough. So Flatbush Avenue, the boardwalk in Coney Island, Navy Yard repairs, and also along Eastern Parkway. These projects create jobs and also help beautify and also revitalize our borough.
So these are direct investments? Direct investments,
yeah. Correct. Then there were payments that were made to Brooklyn residents, our individuals. And those payments came in the form of either unemployment insurance payments, food stamps, Social Security payments, and supplemental social security payments. And in total, it came out to around $700 million for all our Brooklyn residents. If you took a percentage in terms of how much payments the nation made, we garnered nearly 1% of those payments in regards to direct cash infusion, even though our population is around 0.75% with regards to the entire nation's population. So we did quite well with regards to those payments. And at the end of the day, when you have those payments out there, the folks that are likely to get those payments spend it. So it's truly a stimulus spending, if you will. And I'll also add to the fact that for the first time that the U.S. Department of Commerce began measuring income levels, New York City's and Brooklyn's as well, income level actually dropped for the first time in 40 years. For the city, it was 3.2%, and for the borough of Brooklyn, it's 2.9%. So we're still doing a little better than the rest of the city, but without those cash payments that were made by stimulus package, I think it would have been a lot more than 2.9%.
Yeah, we certainly would have experienced a little bit more pain if we didn't have
absolutely,
this.
Absolutely. And then there's a third element with regards to the stimulus package that's TARP, so the Troubled Asset Relief Program that basically went to bail out banks, bail out insurance companies, AIG, and so on and so forth. The job losses there would have been a lot greater had TARP not happened. Before TARP, there was predictions of 70,000, 80,000 job losses in the finance sector, and particularly in New York City alone. Turns out it was only around 35,000, so half of that those job losses actually occurred. And a lot of those jobs, those job holders, I should say, live in Brooklyn. So in fact, it had a effect for Brooklyn as well.
So what are some of the things that the city has done to help Brooklyn businesses and help us during this recession?
I think the city has done a tremendous amount in terms of listening to small businesses. The mayor and the speaker put together a panel to look at regulations and rules that affect small businesses, and they did a great job with regards to going out to all the boroughs and putting together, mom and pop businesses and listening to them about, what is it that that they deal with on a daily basis that the city could help with, and that could be inspections, that could be permits, that could be, waiting for licenses or whatnot. We're expecting the report to come out from that panel before the end of the year, probably by early January or so, and we're excited to hear what they have to say.
So what are some of the lessons that we've learned from this recession?
Well, I think one of the biggest lesson, and this is reiterated by the Brooklyn Labor Market Review, which is available on iBrooklyn.com, and thanks to you, Randy, you started that off when you were at the chamber. So hopefully we're
several years ago.
So hopefully we're carrying the banner on that end. But the Labor Market Review reiterates the point that it's the diversity of our economy that really makes Brooklyn tick. And in light of the fact, and we predict in the Labor Market Review that in 2009, Brooklyn will lose around 8,500 jobs, compared to the fact that the city in total lost around 115,000 jobs. So we're still a relatively small portion of that larger number. And I'll also add to the fact that the job losses are varied throughout all the sectors. So we're not hitting one sector where, Manhattan, it's going to be
financial services.
All financial services, exactly. And if you look at Brooklyn compared to the rest of the nation, our job losses are not significant as compared to 334 counties. We came in 15th with regards to job growth, which is remarkable regarding the fact that Manhattan actually came out.
It does underscore, though, that the notion that we are still a bedroom community and that we rely on Manhattan jobs. But have the number of jobs in Brooklyn been growing overall over the last few years?
They have. And also the workforce pool has also grown as well. So that has effect in terms of the number of unemployment and the ratio of jobs to job holders. But you're right, though, the number of jobs has grown in Brooklyn over the years.
So it's been a tough year, but are we optimistic for 2010?
We're optimistic. Brooklyn is tough. We've held our own for 2009. I think we're going to hold our own for 2010. I think what needs to happen now is perhaps a little more intervention from the federal government with regards to encouraging banks to loan to small businesses and also encouraging job growth.
Great. Well, Carl, I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
Brooklyn Independent Television on the Bklyn TV network.